we're doing fun little things like this and showing you how, our iLabs platform. I also run competitions with students as well. So that's kind of who I am.
I'm Danny Shershut. I'm the Executive Director for EC Council. I handle primarily the consulting and advisory division, but I also handle a lot of our enterprise relationships, so working with corporates to get a lot of their cybersecurity challenges addressed, looking into their cybersecurity skill development. So while Amanda is looking from the academic side, building tomorrow's future cybersecurity leaders, I'm trying to work with corporates to either upskill theirs to handle current threats, or help guys like you to be placed in an organizations such as them to be part of the cybersecurity workforce. So I do a lot of enterprise-related exchanges on behalf of PC Council.
Right. So today we just kind of wanted to make it fun, so we brought along our Storm device. Going to give you just what we know about it,
Yeah.
and then we'll give you the opportunity you can come play with it. And then I also have brought along with me some more access keys for our iLabs platform, which most of you have been in for the ethical hacking, but I have keys now for our forensics course, so you can get a taste of our digital forensics and the tools that are used in that course as well. So, okay. Now, like we said, we're not the really techie people in the company, but our wonderful colleague Kevin King, who actually designed the Storm kit.
Just to give you guys an idea of how we came about the Storm device, right?
Yeah.
Primarily when we were doing a lot of cybersecurity training across either enterprises or for the Department of Defense, say for example, right? A lot of times they wanted training on the go, because say for example, if a soldier is stationed in Iraq, he does not have time or access to a full-time computer to go through different cybersecurity requirements and challenges, and our course being mapped to DoD 8570 and being considered like a prerequisite to join the cybersecurity workforce across different forces in the US. They were putting it as a prerequisite to us for the forces to protect their cybersecurity workflow when they were stationed in the battlefield. So what we started doing back in 2008, 2009, we started using the first level of iPods that came about, and we started preloading our lectures, videos there, and that was a big revolution, because now they're able to be mobile, they're able to take their training with them, they're able to do labs with them on the go. And then we started moving as the Apple ecosystem started evolving. So from iPods we came to iPhones, then iPads, and of course when we did iPads and started a lot of our training in labs on iPads, that increased the whole level of mobility across the board. Until 2 years, we have been substantially offering that training on the Go platform on our iPads, right? So a person can take up that tablet, has trainings, video lectures preloaded, labs preloaded, is able to study on the go. One of the key things that a lot of our constituents raised, and particularly for my personal experience as well, because I also lead the consulting advisory division of our company, was the fact that how do these individuals translate their training to some of the hands-on skill, right? Because while they're running a lot of these exploits on cyber ranges, they always want to have that physical device feel, the brick and mortar feel, to be able to connect to a server, to be able to run exploit, to be able to form a real-life pen test, right? And a lot of times, some of the enterprise tools and solutions were not on the affordability range for a lot of people to go ahead and study. So a lot of what we tried to do was, we were looking at different hacking tools in the market, so to say, and we did a whole survey around what are the different hacking tools that are available, and we then consolidated and realized a preferred learning hacking tool should be mobile, should be ready to go, should have all the tools preloaded, and should actually be capable enough to conduct a full-blown penetration test if a person wants to. So not only does it give a learning field, it also gives a real-life ecosystem environment, same device that a professional penetration tester would use to walk into an organization, connect it, be able to run exploits, be able to identify vulnerabilities, and be able to come back with findings, right? So that gave rise to the EC Council Storm device. Just to give you an architecture overview, it's a Raspberry Pi based device, even though we're coming out with our own operating system hopefully by fall this year. But it's a Raspberry Pi based device that has a controlled Kali Linux built into it. And with a controlled Kali Linux with over 700 plus different tools that are part of the Kali Linux ecosystem, being there and being able to have its own power source, being able to have an Ethernet connection, being able to have an HDMI connection, and the ability to connect this.
The HDMI ports up on the top, and then there are 4 USB ports. And you can actually connect if you want to do like a LAN line right onto that. So you've got kind of everything.
So it's a fully baked solution that we brought in, and that has really sparked interest for a lot of both the corporates and the academic realm, because now they're able to really touch, feel, and work through a lot of those exploits. So that's what the Storm device is in a nutshell, how it evolved, how it came by, of course. As Amanda demonstrated to you, it's a very mobile device, very lightweight, but pretty powerful for its nature. Some of the things that it has, keyboard, t-shirts, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, so it actually comes with this lovely fold-up, little flimsy keyboard. We do have additional, we actually found a keyboard, which is funny, a physical keyboard that's the same size that you could buy, on the side. We have an expansion pack that kind of has all these extra fun things packaged together. So that's kind of the basic keyboard that comes along with it.
And I'm just going to rush.
Yeah, because there's a lot of information in here.
So obviously the premier purpose of this device is to hack, right? In all literal sense. But we're an ethical hacking company, right? So a lot of the ecosystem that's built into it is reflective to run exploits on an actual operating system or a network, right? But with the ability to expand its capabilities. So it has the ability to connect to a wireless antenna to do drone hacking or hacking communications between different airlines or intercept that. And a lot more ability to expand its capabilities. But on the go, it's a complete device that can really work towards running those exploits and taking it in. So let me put this here. And of course, on different types of hacking nature, I'm just going to move forward with this. But of course, looking at the different kind of hacking ecosystems or hacking methodologies that exist, this primarily covers the black and white hackers, right? So it allows you to go into an ecosystem either without credentials provided, looking into the ecosystem, attaining access and then going in, or with the entire admin privileges going in and exploiting each and every single vulnerability or web application.
So if you're not familiar with our slogan, it's to be the hacker, you have to think like a hacker. So in order to become an ethical hacker, you have to understand what the black hat hackers or the unethical hackers are thinking. So for many years, especially in academic institutions, the term hacker was a bad word, okay? So again, we're coming to that place where it's finally becoming more accepted because even industry, government, everybody really fully understands that hacking doesn't necessarily mean a bad thing.
And surprisingly, you will be surprised that we still today get backlash from hearing the word hacking, even ethical hacking. I can give you guys a live example. I'm working with Calgary Police, and they don't want their workforce to say we're certified in ethical hacking. And I'm saying this is a great accolade because now you guys are able to think on the lines of the mindsets of a hacker to be able to better defend them. But that taboo still exists, and we've done a great job breaking that and coming up to where we are today, but of course there's still a lot of work to be done. But yeah, we've gone through that entire cycle of coming out with the first ethical hacking program and then building it, developing it, fighting through all of those backlashes that we got, and eventually now with the current ecosystem, everyone's realizing how critical it is to learn the offensive cybersecurity as well, along with defensive. So, of course, not going in detail to all the capabilities of the Storm. Like I said, it's a pure hacking device. It covers all of the 5 phases of ethical hacking that we teach in our ethical hacking program, along with further capabilities. So it can do it can do passive reconnaissance, it can do active reconnaissance in detail.
One of the really nice things is I was speaking to not only educators, but also a group of professionals kind of were embedded into this. And if you are a professional pen tester or you have a consulting business and you want to go in and you actually want to run a pen test, you don't want to leave your laptop at the facility. Okay? So this is a great device where you can actually leave the device there, set it up, and you can wirelessly access the device and run your testing and do all your reporting remotely. So this is a small device that's running in the background, collecting the data that you're trying to present to your client. So it's not only functional, like you said, in the academic setting where you can set this up and if you're running through a lab sequence, but then you actually want to really test the tools in a live environment. But it's also that business side.
We do a lot of vulnerability assessment penetration testing engagements, right? One of our biggest challenge in any engagements are the cost of labor to travel, their accommodation, their TNS is what we call it, right? And a Storm device has really helped us minimize a lot of those costs. So what it does is we can connect it to the network at the client side, get access to the entire network, and then remotely we're able to run all of our tests or exploits through the Storm at the client location with us being at a completely different location. So that is something that is very heavily practiced in the consulting industry, especially when they're looking to do an on-site and off-site consultative project loading. And Storm device makes it only that much more easier. It eliminates the issues of opening a VPN to the client side, getting accesses, things that would take the clients months of approvals and processes. The Storm device eliminates a lot of that and allows them accessibility to be able to perform those functions. So from hacking phases, gaining access, maintaining access, and clearing tracks. The entire 5 phases of our ethical hacking methodology, with the tools built in, our Storm device is fully capable of performing that. And that's what we give students or prospective cybersecurity professionals the ability and access to do on the Storm. So a lot of your learning when we involve the Storm device is for a particular prospective cybersecurity expert or enthusiast to not only, to really go through the entire 5 phases of ethical hacking. So tomorrow, if there's a real life assignment of saying, for example, do a vulnerability assessment or penetration testing for us, in the most literal sense, you're able to exactly replicate the entire learning ecosystem to a particular professional organization using Storm. And that's what made it really flexible and movable for us to put. And if by any chance we missed in our last discussion why companies want to recruit ethical hacking, from the most non-technical perspective, I can tell you, and I've sat with a lot of CISOs across the globe. One of the greatest understanding that a lot of companies have, that if it hasn't happened to me, it does not exist, right? And that, fortunately, at your time is changing because of how the cybersecurity market is evolving right now. But back in the days, it was very difficult for an enterprise and an organization to get convinced that you need to have an additional pair of eyes and ears to look at the cybersecurity ecosystem. They weren't just buying it. So a lot of times I give an example to people that if I keep telling you you're able-bodied person, you're eating right, you're exercising, you need to go for a health check, you'll be like, no, everything looks fine with me. But if a doctor tells you, I see symptoms of, say for example, cancer or any major disease, then you'll be more inclined to look into this aspect and say, okay, now I have to go and recheck everything else. Ethical hacking is the very same thing. We tell an organization, you know what, you have all of the security protocols in place. You have put in a policy in place, you've done your security posture assessments from third parties, your employees are very well trained, you have 24/7 SOC, you guys are having a very comprehensive disaster recovery plan. Why don't you have an ethical hacker break into your ecosystem? Let him try to hack you, right? And tell you how if he manages to get in, where the gaps are so you're able to fix it. And companies now are realizing this. This was packaged as security posture assessment from some of the largest consulting organizations across the globe. And companies now understand they can have these skills on an individual level much more proactive costs. And that's where ethical hacking is such a strong skill set in today's market that employers are looking for. Obviously, what is ethical hacking? Going through the entire, able to break into the ecosystem, identify vulnerabilities, what could and could not get exploited, active and passive threats into the ecosystem, and of course, running this post the permission of the concerned authority. Ethical, the word ethical is extremely important in this case because this is with the consent of the organization with the aim of helping them identify where the gaps are. This is
we have an ethics policy. Our professional boot camp style, they actually sign an ethics agreement. For my academic clients, because we're actually not physically giving you the tools like we do the boot camp, we don't necessarily have you sign an agreement. However, most of my academic institutions have taken our agreement and added that signature line to make sure that students do understand that there is accountability when using these tools in an unethical way. So again, that's why we don't generally work with anybody under the age of 18 for this type of information. I have run ethical hacking challenges for high school students because I want them to be aware, but we are actually coming up with an ethical hacking associate for high school. So they're going to get to actually start looking at ethical hacking and what it means, but they're just not going to be able to have the full range of getting out there and messing around where they might not understand what ethics means at that point.
So yeah, this is again a brief explanation of what the Storm device is. It's a mobile security toolkit fully loaded with penetration testing platform. For people who are very familiar with Raspberry Pi, that's exactly what we have put in. Touchscreen, tailor-made for EC Council, next generation practical trading. And let's just go give you guys a look of how,
So that's, yeah,
how it looks like.
and you guys can look at it here in a second too.
You can open this up. So what can happen? So this is a very good slide, right? Of course, some
These
of the
are only
people would,
a few of the
yeah, some of the people would ask us, so this all sounds good, what can you really hack with this? What's the capability of this device? Well, it can do pretty much for its size. Of course, air cracking, burp suit, Cisco Global Exploiter, Ripper, Kismet, Metalash, Metasploit framework. So a lot of these major tools and solutions that are enterprise-based and are currently being used or deployed across different, consulting constituents or organizations are preloaded into this device and could be executed through it. So that's what makes it more, mobile and applicable in that ecosystem scenario. So a lot of times, and just to give you guys an idea, these are all open source versions, right? So at any point in time, of course, when a person's looking to put in a differentiator, this is a question that I get a lot of times. How do you differentiate between an enterprise version of Metasploit and the version of Metasploit that exists on our Storm device, right? Or are these enterprise versions that we're getting access to through an enterprise? No, these are open source versions. Of course, the enterprise version has a much more detailed value-add portfolio, but the functionality of those tools are pretty much the same, right? The person who's run Metasploit, so you guys would understand that the Metasploit ecosystem in the Storm works exactly the same way as the enterprise ecosystem. So that individual, that student is able to go and use the same tool and same efficiency level to an enterprise organization.
The good thing about this is because people are like, well, these are open source tools, couldn't I just download and get this all set up myself? We make sure, we have the professionals behind the scenes, making sure that if you've ever worked at Cali, sometimes you get these tools on here and then they don't work. We make sure that they all work before you even get the device. And then we've actually, they've created a Storm community where if you have issues with your Storm or for some reason you've played around with your machine and you've kind of erased everything and you need to restore your Storm device, we have that forum. So not only are we building this device, but we've formed a community where people can interact and hopefully share ideas as well. So, one of those platforms where it's bringing a community of people together.
In generally, any person can build a device such as our Storm. It's not something that we would claim is out of the world, right? In another person, it's a Raspberry Pi based device. But putting it together, having a controlled Kali Linux into it with the preloaded softwares, with our team, continuously building and adding tools, and a whole community that's coming in, innovating, adding tools, making sure the Raspberry Pi version is always updated is what makes it a bit more unique. And at the same time, it allows an individual to break it down, like Amanda said, take it out, add their own flavor to it, and be able to reassemble the whole device. So that's what made it.
So currently we're using the Raspberry Pi 3, and I know they're working on 3B right now. So just because sometimes people are thinking,
so it's
aren't we
fully
using the latest and
integratable,
greatest?
wireless LAN, Ethernet port, 4 USB port, 2.0 ports, and let me just jump in here. So this is how the entire hardware compilation is. If anyone wants to put together a Storm after this discussion, these are all the things that you guys need, and we'll be able to put this out together. This is how the tear down the chipset is, and every person who has a Storm device gets this, so they're able to put this together if they deassemble it.
So we have about 15 minutes.
All right, I'm just.
There's one thing I do want to point out. So when you're in go back to so that's just the pens and stuff. But one interesting thing is if you're working on this and it's a small screen and you want to project or whatever, you can actually use the HDMI, but one of the things you do have to do is, you see the red and black wire, you do have to disconnect those and make sure that you know exactly where they're going again when you install it. But once you disconnect those, you can hook up an HDMI and plug it into your 55-inch TV screen, go at it. So just little fun things, let's say you have a training that you're doing or you're trying to do something and looking at the small screen isn't, fun. And you have that option. That's just something fun that I actually learned when I was school because I have a hard time working on these small little devices sometimes. Sorry, I should point that out.
So let me just. And of course, a lot of our tech has actual instances of us running exploits and how it looks like. And I can show you some of the slides. I'm sure we don't have time to run an exploit on this phone. But
I want them to be able to come over here and.
So you can run Nmap, you can run ping sweep in this, get access to all of that. You can run hping3 commands, proxy changing, tools, and so on and so forth. All of this, we'll let you guys have a go at it for sure. This I think is important, what it does in the education cyberspace. So a couple of things that I think were really relevant and probably would be applicable to you guys is one, being able to run these exploits on an actual pen testing device, that's one. But apart from that, it's a very useful capture the flag device. So internal competitions across students to be able to do capture the flag on the fly using some of the preloaded labs and tools. That's a very interesting feature of the Storm device, being able to conduct actual activities that are part of your syllabus. So say today we're going to do enumeration or breaking back cryptography code or reconnaissance. All of this could be built into the Storm device and put it on a practical. Saying it has the ability, it's a full function tablet as well. So if anyone wants to do media browsing during the class, not that we advise it, but you can do it. Industry tips, exam preparation of all of our courses, they're all syncable with the Storm device. And some of the best practices in the industry, just to conclude, you can use it as a virtual bridge, run virtual software, create a switch to your Storm device, something that I was sharing with you guys. So it has the ability to conduct a fully wireless penetration test for a client host and be able to conduct a lot of these assessments.